Well, this is a hunting knife for you. And it's all part of this collection I have. We're going to have to include this collection and teach you all about knives and blades at another time. Today we're busy. First of all, I'm Dr. Russ. This is another one of those Dr. Russ air rifle adventures. And trust me when I say adventures, because we've decided to do something as we start this 4th year of videos, and video number 101, averaging about 3 per month. We are going to start including you into our videos. As long as your home is somewhere on the path of our journey, we call, get permission. And today we've got permission from our very first viewer. That's Drew, D-R-E-W. We're gonna stop by his place. He's gonna show us his very first air gun ever, a Gamo Fusion. And we'll see the rest of his place. He's got some questions. I've got a few gifts for him because there is no pay for our viewers, no pay for me, which is okay. Why? Because I share the passion of air guns. And let me tell you how long your passion can last. The secret word in passion is accuracy. When your air guns are accurate, you keep shooting them. When they're not so accurate, they get pushed into the back of a closet and left there. So we're going to try to teach you how to be safe, sharp, and silent as you go about your air gunning. Well, let's get over to Drew's house. It's good to meet you after all this time.
It's nice to meet you, sir.
We've been communicating through the comments section of our videos.
Right. I really liked your videos, and that's what made me comment.
and you've gone out and you've bought your first air gun.
Yes, sir.
But before we get to the air gun, I see some other toys. What do we got here?
Yeah, we got a few toys. I like my toys. We got my KLX Kawasaki 250 here. It's I like riding trails up north, and so we load that up in the truck and another toy, and we take it up, and I like to ride up there. That's kind of a fall and spring thing for me.
What's under the black tarp over here?
In the summertime, this is my other toy.
Looks like it might be a Camaro.
It might be. It might be the 50th anniversary edition Camaro.
Wow.
And we call her Sophia Loren.
What year was the 50th anniversary?
2017. And the story behind it is the very first model year was 1967 for the Camaro. But as you know, the very first car usually rolls out the fall before that year.
Yeah.
And so the Camaro was born a week after I was born. And so my son, when I was trying to decide what color to get, he's like, well, what about this one? That's the 50th. And I told him, yeah, the history of it. And he's like, well, you have to get the 50th then. So that's how I ended up with the 50th anniversary edition and one color. And
it's a Camaro, convertible.
yeah, he's like, you should get the convertible. And I'm like, I've never had a convertible. He goes, that's why you got to get it. So
Well, you don't have to take it all off. We just wanted to make sure it was a Camaro.
yeah.
Well, she's pretty. And
I dressed up the motor compartment a little bit and kind of put some stainless steel on the motor to shine it up.
Pop the hood just so we can see that.
Okay. But I tried to keep it as original as possible.
And these came with a Corvette engine, didn't they?
This has the Corvette LT1 engine, 6.2 liter.
Oh, that's the big one.
Out of the showroom floor, she had 455 horsepower. I added a couple pieces, and now she's probably about 495 horsepower.
She's pretty.
So there's a little dust on them, but
She is pretty.
that's my baby.
And I love the color. I love that color. And you do a little detailing, if I remember right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I enjoy detailing cars and shining them up and protecting them and putting layers of protection on them because I want it to look as better than it came out of the showroom.
Drew, you've got a big backyard here.
Yes, sir.
What kind of critters do you spot back here?
Well, amongst all the squirrels, we got foxes that come and visit us. We have a groundhog that's been floating around and terrorizing my neighbor more than me, but he's still in the neighborhood. I had a bunch of my corn eaten by deer this year, which I wasn't real happy about, and which kind of instigated my idea of looking at air rifles and maybe protecting my yard a little bit in my garden.
I can see the squirrel nest up in the trees.
Yeah.
And how many yards is it to the back of that property?
I would guess probably 200.
Yeah. Well, that's where the deer are crossing?
Yeah, they crossed in the back. Last year we had my husky playing with one of the bucks that came into the yard, and they were chasing each other around the garage here a little bit.
You got a big blue spruce tree here. That's my favorite tree, is blue spruce. In fact, I find my way around in the woods by remembering where the blue spruce are.
Oh, okay. They're good landmarks and they grow fast.
You throw a light on it and it's blue.
Yep.
And this is the garage.
So this is my little escape from my escape. I have the attached garage, and then I have the separate garage. We got a workbench in here. I keep most of my tractor attachments back here. So I kind of set up some things here. And
so I see some shots in the target. You've been shooting your new Gamo Fusion.
Yes, sir.
At that target.
That, and I got the spinners down there.
Spinner down below.
I got a big chunk of that tree trunk we were talking about earlier. I'm going to use that as a backstop, and I'm going to put that down there as well. Mm-hmm. And then I bought some more targets to attach to that, so I can sight it in.
Well, those are splat targets. You're going to enjoy those.
They seem to work pretty good so far.
Yeah.
Because they kind of highlight where the round went in. So I like them so far.
Good. Well, let's go in and see this new Gamo you have.
Okay.
Drew, what have we got here on the table? This doesn't look like a Gamo.
No, this is the Gamo, but these other two are two Smith & Wessons. One is my wife's. This is the M&P Easy 2.0 380, and this is my 45 1911. Sorry.
Yes, when Mr. Browning designed what's known as the 1911, that gun is just as good today as it ever was. And he did that, I think, 1909 or something. Smith & Wesson does a beautiful job. Most companies today make a 1911. And I can see how we've got some magna porting going on up here. And what's nice about that is the gun looks empty, is that when we shoot, well, these are lightening it up. Total Magnaport would actually have some holes in the barrel.
Right.
And it shoots up kind of a V of flame, a flame shaped in a V. And as this bullet is passing through and out the barrel, that high compression behind it and the fire of burning powder behind it is allowed for a nanosecond as the back of that bullet passes to escape. Mm-hmm. And when it escapes, what it's doing is it's holding the gun barrel down like jets on a satellite out in space, the exact amount that wants to pick it up and kick it up like that. So these are beautiful guns. Nice gripping edges. You've got the, I like to squeeze it with my finger down there. And now it's what we call a half cock. And that's another way of having it on safe. It just cannot shoot now.
That particular one has two safeties because you have the grip safety and then you have the manual safety.
Well, when it's on both sides like this, we call it ambidextrous,
Yep.
left and right. A nice big 45 caliber hole compared to your wife's gun, which is 38, 9mm. It's actually smaller than 9mm, just a hair. And a very, very easy gun to control.
It's a very nice lightweight gun. Yeah, it's really, really smooth.
The next thing I see here are pellets. You've got several pellets that you're shooting,
Yep.
all in an effort to find the right pellet for that gun. What have you shot so far?
So originally I tried the, I guess you call them the hunter's points.
Yes.
And then I watched your videos and learned that you kind of had the preference towards the domed heads.
You would think that the hunter's point would actually shoot straighter than the domed head. For me, and I shoot a lot of different guns, this still seems to be the most accurate. This would be right behind it. Now, these flatheads, also referred to as match, they're called match because they leave the most perfect holes. And if we're really in deep competition and we want to see, did your hole touch the line or not touch the line, this can tell. Where these will make a tear.
Gotcha. Now,
This is all part of the non-lead ammunition that's out. And they've, in effect, put something close to a BB in the end. And it's made it very lethal. My experience is just not as accurate as these. Or this. But it's, when it hits, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
You picked the Gamo.
Yes, sir.
And that's not the scope that comes with a Gamo.
No, sir. You know, during the watching of your videos and the recommendations, I invested in the CV Life scope, and it's just amazing because it gives you a few different options of scoping in the target that I really like.
You've got a red dot on top of the scope.
Yep.
And the red dot is what you want to use probably the most with squirrels, because anything that's moving around,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to follow it in that red dot than it is in this scope. And then off on your side of the scope, you've got something else mounted.
Yep, there's a laser.
Yep. And I find that that's the best defense. When you walk through a house, if I was burglarizing your house and I see this red dot going around, I'd say, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I should move on.
Time to go.
What I like about the Fusion, and that's what series this Gamo is it's the quietest of all the guns, so it's the most backyard friendly. So what we have is a moderated barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the barrel in there, well, it's no bigger than these pellets, about like a straw. And then we've also got a suppressor on the end, both of which help keep the gun quiet. This is the only Gamo of all the Gamos, swarms, that has both. A moderated barrel. And up here, we have something called an air splitter. And on each side of the barrel, the straw, we have an escape that allows air to come out and into this suppressor, but also to work its way back down here. And that is what really sucks the sound out of it. Knowing that air guns don't make a lot of sound, not like a powder gun, but it allows it to suck down. Usually we'll find a small hole drilled into this, allowing that air to continue to escape.
Gotcha.
A tiny hole. Gamo, to my experience, has not put separators in here. Being 17 and 22 caliber, they really don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
But you get into large bore guns, they need it.
They start adding those.
So you can get suppressors that cost as much as this gun, and they're bigger, and they have those dividers. The same is true with the moderated barrel, more dividers, usually made out of like a plastic or rubber, and it allows this air, not fiery air that we would have with a powder gun, but air to come back and be slowed down as it's doing that. Then you've got the real thing that Gamo brought to the whole airgun industry, and that was the Multishot, 10x Multishot. And when you put the pellet in here, you put 10 rounds in.
Right.
And all we have to do is cock this barrel. And that's what keeps putting the rounds from that magazine into the barrel. Probably the thing that we want to watch the most here with these is this black rubber band here, this band, and it goes right into the waistline of a pellet, as you see here. And that rubber keeps them so they can't fall out. An optical illusion is that it's okay. And yet, when we start to cock and pump it, we can see these things spit out onto the ground instead of going out the barrel. Why? And the answer is that we often have to take it and push it in just a little farther so that that rubber goes into that waste. A ballpoint pen, a toothpick, lots of things can make it. Gamo's made this problem a little better, self-healing I'll call it, as the years go by. This looks like it's a Gen 3.
This is a Gen 2.
Gen 2, okay, Gen 2.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the Gen 3. I'm not really sure why they added the I onto it instead of just Gen 3, but they did. Well, you've kept it in beautiful shape. And one of the things that we were able to do, I always get calls about what scopes do you use? And I kind of change every year. But I may have got to the best one now. CV Life. I struck a deal with a lady there by the name of Jill Blake, and what she did was she said that these well-priced scopes, this scope was like $98, $100,
Yeah.
and you got a 15% discount.
Yes, I did.
By putting a code in it. I can't remember if it's 15 Russ or Russ 15.
Russ 15, I
Russ
remember.
15. And now it's $85. And it comes with the red dot, and it comes with a laser. I mean, you spend $50 on all of that, each one of those, and here this whole gun was $85, and I happen to love mine. I don't know if we can look through it here or not, but we don't see crosshairs. In fact, if you hold it up, let's see if my very special camera person today. Okay, we'll let our special camera person, Dr. Paula, who's running the camera today, to look. And I'm just not sure if we're going to see what we need to see, but we have a very unusual crosshair configuration in this gun. A lot of people might be used to crosshairs that have a mil dots, and they think that stands for military. It does not. It's milliradium or something, but it is a company that put hash marks or hash dots on the cross that allow you to compensate for wind, compensate for distance. This doesn't even have that. It's far more advanced, and it has kind of a swooping tree in it. That allows you, and each gun is different, each caliber is different, each power is different, but once you find which pellet you like the best, you're going to find out where to shoot the gun for different distances. And you'll want to shoot in some wind. And how far out do I come when it's time to deal with some wind too. Next, I'm going to show you something about your targets.
Okay.
So as we started our 4th year of videos, we decided to include some of the more interesting people we met over our comment section. And Drew here is that interesting person. He's so interesting, he's first to get himself into a video here. I decided to bring him a gift that really helps me. Forgetting the woodchucks for a moment, which I think is the most formidable thing you could shoot with an air gun. Let's just look at these splat targets. Birchwood does a great job, and I brought some spares, and you just stick this into the ground. This is this coroplast material, so it's like a cardboard but made out of plastic. You don't leave it out in the rain because these will have a way of kind of peeling up, but you'll walk your pellets into these bullseyes. Once you're comfortable there, you can shoot this woodchuck in in this case a prairie dog, into the head or through the lungs, either one. These little round circles out here will patch it up and cover it after you've shot once or twice before. But imagine for a moment, and I'm just going to use some yardages here, but you're going to find out exactly what yardages you want. But let's pretend that we start this at 25 yards.
Okay.
And we zero it right in. Now, what is actually happening at 25 yards? Well, the barrel is actually slightly raised and the scope is level. And so the pellet, which really comes out of a barrel 3 inches below that scope, if they were both level, we'd be shooting here when we looked at here.
Right.
So by realizing that in sighting in, we've raised it, and in this example, 25 yards, we're hitting the bullseye. Well, what might happen at 35 yards or 45? And now the bullet starts rising because it's shooting too high. And then it comes back to earth, thank goodness to gravity. And somewhere out about 65, 70, 75 yards, it comes right back and starts hitting this. So I like to tell people that once you sight your gun in, you've sighted it in for 2 places. You can take your backyard, if this is where 90% of the shooting is going to take place, and you shoot first here, then you take it out a little further, a little further, a little further. And if you don't have a rangefinder, then just pace it off or use a long tape measure and come with it. And here's some spare targets.
Oh,
but what's
awesome.
key is a piece, I use duct tape, but a piece of duct tape that goes right here on your cheek spot. So as I'm about to shoot, I'm looking here, being right-handed, at a piece of tape that's on the left side of this gun. Now, let me ask Dr. Pella to bring that in real close. This is a pretty simple line. It shoots the line of the scope, but at 25 yards, notice it's right on. But notice the next line out at 50 yards, it says 2H. That means that it's going to be hitting the target 2 inches high. And what is it going to do at 75 yards? It's going to be zeroed right in again. And at 100 yards, she starts shooting low. In this case, 6 inches low. I was just guessing with his Gamo. But he's going to find out exactly, and once you find out on paper, then you're going to put it on the duct tape and put it on your cheek. And I don't care where that squirrel, that woodchuck, whatever he is out there, you're going to know right what to do. Especially with this mil-dot scope you've got going here. But that little thing, you've got to do your homework here first. Right. That little thing really is going to be your Bible as you're watching these take place. That's my best
appreciate that
target information for you.
Thank you.
Well, you did the right thing when you ordered that particular scope, because brake barrels, which break here, and pistols require shorter scopes, and this is the shorter. If we'd had a longer one, it could come clear out to here,
and then I could
you got
break
problems.
Break.
As a general rule, the back of the scope comes behind the receiver here about 2 inches.
Okay.
I think the advertisement says that the CV life is set for 3, but somewhere between 2 and 3 inches. And so by leaving these tightening screws loose, you're going to find out exactly where your head is when you do a natural swing into motion here. What happens when our eye is 2 inches off? Well, the good news, and I've seen it and I've done it, is have this thing come back and hit the eye. Leaves you a black eye and half of a moon cut right here. Not any fun.
Right.
So we need that space when the gun does its kick, if you will. There's second, and really the number one reason, is that's where we see the whole picture. If we get too close, well, now you're going to start looking at the insides of this scope. If you get too far back, you're going to see a little hole and lots of black, and that's not the best to shoot from either. So we do that. The red dot has a focus. It also has the chance to go with red or green lights in here. And that's the best for movement. Something's out there moving. And I can tell you, usually after you shoot something with an air gun, it's flopping and flipping and crawling and whatever. You want to have this just as sighted in as this is.
Right.
For home defense, the laser. Well, you start showing that red dot around the house, and anybody in here say, I really don't need to be here. There's nothing worse than that red dot finding me while I'm in this house. Now, here's one of the problems. The CV Life catalog doesn't show this piece right here. I think you found it on Amazon.
I did. I found it on Amazon.
Now, the bad news is Amazon doesn't recognize Russ 15.
No, no, they did not.
But this is only about $10 to begin with.
I think it was like $11.
Now,
10, 11.
What are we pointing at, and why do we need it? Well, the answer is that when you see this part of the mount right here, this is called the Picatinny rail, and it is 20 or 21. You see both references, 20, 21 millimeters in width. But that's not what this is. This is 10, also referred to as 11 millimeters. And that's what's on almost all break barrels. You'll get a Picatinny rail down here when you get into large bore for sure, 30 caliber and up. But when we're under 30 caliber, we often are dealing with two different size of mounts. And so we need a scope transition rail that will take this 11 and connect it to this 21. And it's about 10 bucks. Again, it's nice to get $15 off of this $100 scope. By the way, they have $50 scopes. It's like this, but doesn't have all these accessories. But Drew, he wanted all the bells and whistles like that Camaro out there.
Yes, sir.
So this is, I call it the Corvette scope right here. Now, so here's the height and width dimensions to pull this pellet into the bullseye. But some people say, well, what is this thing? Well, when you open it up with a dime or a nickel, you're going to find what I call those hearing aid batteries. It's about the size of a nickel, and it drops in, and I think it's 30, 32 or 20, 32, something.
20,
like
32, I think it is.
And they send you a couple of them in there. So
yeah, they gave me a nice
and then they give you some, I think 41s, 3 of them for here and another 3. Yeah, so here's what you get for the laser, and this is what you get on the scope. Now the scope works just fine without this, but why do we put a battery in here? Why do we need this? This illuminates those crosshairs, and if you're hunting early morning or late evening, you can't do it without illuminated, because just black lines disappear in the trees, and you now have a gun whose scope is of no value to you. So this has all the bells and whistles. Illuminated scope. It has a adjustment here so it can adjust for your eyesight, and then right in here is another adjustment what does this one go to?
Magnification to 12, I believe.
Yeah, 3 to 12, 4 to 12.
4 to 12, I believe.
And now he can bring that thing that's 100 yards out, clear up to something very, very close. So now he has a great break barrel and a great scope on it for like $85. So I think that you're off to a great start. You don't have to worry about the power being out. The brake barrel compresses it.
Right.
Under the barrel is a place for a little either screwdriver or Allen head. There's 2 screws in there. Why? Well, you have a 2-stage trigger. One is just the easy going, and then you hit resistance. Now you know, okay, I'm there. If I squeeze some more, I'm going to shoot this gun. So one adjusts this easy spread by turning, and then you reach this resistance. And well, in competitive shooting, you want about a pound, which means just breathe hard, boom, she goes off. And that's, in competition, is where you want to be. Maybe not for backyard squirrels and whatever. But you'll, and I'm not sure this will get us down to 1. But I do recommend that you keep a little log on how many complete circles. You can get these out of whack. So let's be negative and say, Drew, you got this out of whack, but you're 5 turns in. Okay, so now I can go back to the starting place by going back 5 turns. That will help you there. You've got a good butt pad on the end. You've taken those little sections out.
Yes, I did.
17 caliber brake barrels. You probably don't feel any kick to begin with. It's really these 357s and ups that you'll start to feel a little bit. My wife was shooting 22. Didn't feel any kick at all. So that's I think they want to make it look as nice as a real rifle, powder rifle. But it's nice to just make it as comfortable as you can. Sure. Well, you've got your spare batteries. You've got some sights in. Now, if there was any other last concern I had with this Gamo, even Generation 2, I'm going to do a little bit of guesswork here, but I'm going to say that gun can shoot 17 caliber BBs at least 1,300 feet a second. If you took some white paint, nail polish, you go into some of these stores, you'd be surprised how cheap it is, and you painted the back side of a skirt, and you shoot, you could see the white pellet go to target. You'd see this arch I'm talking about. But when you shoot light pellets, it gets out there about 40 yards, and then she starts doing this. Whoa, what happened there? Now, a lot of people say, I don't do anything, and I shoot 20, 35 yards, it's perfect. Yeah, it does stay perfect for that long. But then it can go crazy. And what if you got a squirrel out there, 50 yards or something, woodchuck? You want it to be just as accurate at 50 as 25. So we've got to go to heavier pellets. Now, there's a couple of big guys out there. Pyramid Air is in Ohio. Arizona Airgun is, of course, in Arizona. There's a Utah Air out in Utah. And I'm sure there's some others. And these big companies, they probably have about 500 different brands and weights of pellets. And so you get 4 pages of just 17 caliber. And you just look at those weights. Now, these will have a weight on them right here on the front of the can. I need a magnifying glass there, but it's light. And so when you look at what you've been shooting, and then you go to one of these websites, I recommend you go with a 17 caliber. I'm saying go to the heaviest pellet you can get.
But after watching your videos, I found these. These were domed ones.
Yes.
And they had a heavier weight on them, so that's what I made the purchase.
So this is 7 grain. I really need a magnifying glass for this one, but it's I'm going to guess it's 5.
I think they're lighter, yes.
So this is 7. I'm going to guess that if you go online, you'll find some that are 14, 15 gram.
Oh, wow.
Heavy. Well, a lot of people say, well, what happens when a pellet goes from 1,300 feet to, say, 800? Can it still kill a woodchuck, for example? And the answer is, oh, you're actually gaining on us here. Yes, you've slowed the velocity down, but there's something called foot-pounds of energy, FPE, and that is what can knock an animal out. And it's a multiplier. I should put the code, the formula online, but it's a multiplication of the speed and the weight divided by a third number, and it tells how much. And you can tell, even though I'm slowing my pellet down, I'm picking up the weight, and I'm hitting that animal harder.
Right.
And I think the most important thing is pellets, which by the way are in the shape of a badminton birdie. That's what they're mimicking. Heavy on the front, a light skirt on the back, feathers, and that goes through the air as smooth as anything. Well, that's what they want these pellets to do. Except when they get up over 1,000 feet a second, they go crazy out there somewhere, and you just don't want to go there. So by bringing that speed down, and I call it the sweet spot. That sweet spot is somewhere between 750 and 950. And you say, well, I don't have a chronograph. A, call me and you borrow mine. B, you're just going to see that these pellet groups have tightened up, and that's what you want, a tight group, because you got down into the sweet spot. And trust me, you kill anything with more weight and less speed than, let's say, some of these platinum, titanium, plastic rounds that go, I think the Generation 3i is shooting 1,650 feet a second. I don't know how they hit anything with that, really. Now, why is this important? See, I don't shoot competitive, Russ. I just shoot a couple of critters out here. Keep them out of my attic. Well, here's what I found. If you have a passion for something, you stay at it, you keep with it. I have a passion for air guns. And if that air gun isn't accurate, it goes in the back of the closet.
Right.
So, and I don't want that. After a month, you say, I can't hit the side of a barn anyway. I might as well put it in the closet. And you never go get it again. But if this thing is a tack driver, let me get that out again. I'll use it today, and you do. Let me say one last thing. I understand that you wash your pellets.
Yes, sir.
Now, they've just come out with some new advice on this, and I believe it, and I've got to change my gun rack, which has 46 guns now, with the butt down and the barrel pointing towards the ceiling. What is the new advice? Point the gun down. So I am changing some hardware, and I'm going to do it. Because I have to tell you, the biggest complaint with air guns is having them repaired. And when the gun is upright and a little bit of dust or dirt comes down that barrel, where does it go? Into the air compression chambers. You do not want anything. That's where they go bad. That's where they quit. And by having the gun right side up, and I've said, after you clean it with something, some oil, you always turn it up. You don't want that oil dragging some dirt down there. So put it in, and so it'll come out onto a rag on the floor for about 2 days. They're saying no, 24/7.
Wow.
Keep the barrel down. So take an old cloth and put it on the floor somewhere, and that's the way you store this gun. Because that's a beautiful gun. I know it shoots sweet. But the day that those little particles, did you come up with any particles when you were washing these pellets?
Oh yeah. I rinsed
Little specks, you put a magnifying glass, you can see them.
Sure.
You do not want them in your air compression chambers at all. So that's good. That's good. Good brand of pellets, a good brand of these. You're going to see some brands you've never seen before when you go to these internet suppliers. One that I found overall is good, and that's JSB.
Okay.
A lot of people, every can says match JSB. And then they have these words: king, heavy, very heavy, monster. Now, they sell those for a reason. They work. And you want the heaviest pellet going out there.
Okay.
Don't worry about the speed. Get it down to the sweet spot, and you'll enjoy it. Well, I hope you enjoy these.
I appreciate it.
Next time, I hope to see a piece of tape which shows me you've used these.
Yes, sir.
And you can blow the heart out of these prairie dogs out here real easy. And that's only going to make you better with these powder guns out here and using them. Been a nice time visiting you.
It's awesome to meet you. Thank you very much.
Well, that was an adventure. And our first visit, in this case, to Drew, who has not only a Gamo, but he's got some toys out there, doesn't he? Well, anyway, if you think that you would want to be included in one of our 4th year videos, put it in a comment. And if you're along the journey, we'll stop and see you too. Find out what you need to know, what you're looking for, and what you've done in the way of your passion for air guns. Oh, if you like today's video, and that's important, give us a thumbs up. Certainly leave a comment. I enjoy answering all of them. But most important, if you haven't seen 100 of our videos or close to it, click that little circle of me, not to see me, but to access our 100, this is 101 videos, and find the one that suits you and be sure you get it. Otherwise, subscribe so you don't miss the next 100.